Especially since the birth of our daughter, which of course makes attending game nights much more complicated, my wife and I have been looking for two-player games that we can play at home. Also, my wife prefers games that are not too long to play, games that do not have too long rule books, and where possibly interesting strategies come from rules that are not too complicated. So it was in the search for games of this type that we decided to give a try to Dragonheart. Dragonheart is a game published by Fantasy Flight and Cosmos. It is clearly fantasy themed. As you can see, it's a small game. It's also pretty affordable, very portable. We played it quite a bit, and what we found out is going to be the content of this review.
This is the board where the action of the game is going to take place. If you read the rulebook, you will learn that an evil wizard has petrified the good dragon, that was the protector of the land, so that there would be no one opposing the minions of the evil wizard, which are the evil troll and the fire dragon. However, luckily enough, there are some brave heroes that are trying to fight against all these monsters, and these heroes are the huntress, the knights, and the sorceress. Now, all this is fine and good, but as soon as you start playing the game, you realize that this does not really describe what's going on in the game. In fact, you won't have a player playing the evil minions and another one playing the heroes. Every player will be playing all characters in different moments. So one turn you will be using the troll to attack the sorceress, and then the other turn you will be using the knight to attack the troll, and so on and so forth. So in a certain way, it will be everybody attacks everybody when it's the right moment to do so. And since most of these attacks are meant to steal cards from the other characters, maybe a title that would describe better what's going on would be something like Land of the Thieves. But I'll admit that that wouldn't be nearly as catchy as Dragonheart. Each player has a deck with the characters on the board and with a numeric value representing how many points each card is worth at the end of the game. On the board you have the same characters printed there, and characters are surrounded by a variable number of outlines. For example, the dragon has 1, the huntress has 3, other characters have other numbers. That is the number of cards that you need to play in that location in order to activate the character. When you activate the character, what usually happens is that you're able to take the cards that the arrow of the character is pointing at, and you can put those cards in your pile. Each turn you can play multiple cards as long as they all are of the same type and you're played in one location. So for example, somebody placed a treasure chest there. I play the dragon, only one outline, so with one card is enough to activate it. I activate the dragon, I get this card, and I put it in my special pile, and I'll score that card in the end. Then somebody, might be my opponent, might be me, later will play 3 huntresses here. It takes 3 outlines to activate the huntress, but then the huntress, when it's activated, will kill the dragon, and whoever played that will bring the dragon to their pile and score it in the end. Actually, one doesn't have to play the 3 huntresses at the same time. Maybe somebody play 1 card, and then somebody else plays 2 cards later, or is the same player playing it one at a time. It doesn't matter, as long as at a certain point somebody will play the 3rd card, then the huntress is activated. So different characters will have special abilities and act slightly differently. However, more or less, this is what the game is about. You place down cards and you try to make it in such a way to bring home as many profitable cards as possible. A card that plays differently from the others is the Petrified Dragon. You can activate a sorceress to take that card, so first it will give you 2 points in the end, but if you take the card it also gives you this figurine of the Petrified Dragon that gives you a larger hand of cards each turn and also gives you some extra points in the end. So even if cards play differently from one another, sometimes you might have the impression, well, but this is after all a modified version of paper, rock and scissors. Is knight kills troll, troll kills sorceress, sorceress gets the Petrified Dragon. But actually in terms of strategies there is much more than that. There are many more things that you have to take into account in order to play the game effectively. As you might have noticed, in order to do anything you need to put down a card, and usually the card stays on the board. So for example, I did this, I put down the sorceress so I could take that card, but now that card is there and my opponent might be able to play the troll and take that card. and then maybe I'll be able to play a knight, but I will need two, or something like that. Or maybe I can strategize in such a way that I'll be able to bring home the same cards that I put down earlier. However, you have to plan that. Everything that you invest might backfire if it ends in the hand of your opponent. Also, cards have different values, so in an ideal world, you will be playing a troll that is not very valuable, only one, to get a card with a higher value. So you are taking away from the board more than you are leaving on the board. However, most of the times, you will not have such an ideal situation, and maybe that will be the situation. You have a 1 sorceress there, and you have a 3 troll in your hand. So now the hard choice is it gonna be worth the risk to leave a 3 troll on the board to be able to get 1 point from the sorceress? And you will see that there will be a lot of strategy there. You really have to take into account how many cards of a certain type already came out, how many are still out, what is the other player trying to do, what are the plans. So there's going to be a lot of strategy there, and it's going to be very different from rock, paper and scissors.
Dragonheart is definitely a light game. It's easy to learn, easy to teach, quick to set up, and so that would definitely make it appealing, for example, even to non-gamers. However, it still has a nice range of options and things you can do to create your strategy, so I believe it can also be appealing to gamers at different levels of experience. The lag factor might be considerable in certain cases. There are rules about discarding cards, exchanging, getting extra cards. All you get from the deck in your hand will have to go on the board at some point. You won't have much control over what you receive, so there might be games that will be controlled by random distribution of cards that will make no sense whatsoever. That is a necessary evil in most card games of this type. However, something must be said here. The box says that the game can be played in around 20 minutes, but I found that once the players know how the game goes, most games will actually last around 10 minutes, sometimes even less when one of the players tries to end the game soon for strategical reasons. That means that if you play for an hour and a half or 2 hours, you might be able to play 7, 8 or 9 or 10 games in a row. You can have your little tournament. The implication is that you play 10 games and 2 of those were completely absurd and completely dominated by luck. Well, not such a big deal, because you still had 7, 8 games where you did have the impression and the sense that your strategy did impact the outcome of the game. So overall, you will still feel that it's not just mere chance, but it was worth it to spend time playing the game and developing your strategies and interacting with the other player and create a good and effective hand management strategy. So, bottom line, I would say that if you're looking for a nice filler, a nice warm-upper, a nice play with your spouse type of game, Dragonheart definitely is a good choice.